Cool. So we are all set. Okay. So welcome everyone. It's so exciting to see everyone here. And this is the second webinar of the series of Waterversities. And we have amazing lineup of speakers. Let me just brief you why we are here and what are we going to do here. So the whole idea is that we believe that learning cannot be just confined to the four walls of the classroom or the textbook. We learn each day, every moment. We learn from people, we learn from communities, we learn from the nature, we learn from the rivers, we learn from our own self. So then why this notion of just the universities for higher education? So we said, let's bring universities everywhere. Let every corner become the learning center. So hence the Ecoversities and the Indian Multiversity Alliance has come up that we are encouraging learning everywhere from everyone. And we have interesting people within our alliance. We meet, we sing, we laugh, we dance, we have a lot of debates and very interesting gatherings. And so the whole idea last series which we did was Farmversities, that farms becoming the center of learning. And this time we are focusing on water becoming the center for learning. And the first webinar of this series was an engagement with Rajendra Bhai, who's called the Waterman of India. And we had a lovely session with him. And one of his core values, or you can say that, just sow the seeds of love everywhere and just talk about water everywhere, whether you go to IIM, whether you go to IITs, or whether you go to Harvard or you go to Oxford, you go to a primary school, you go anywhere, talk about it. Challenge them that what are you doing as a scientist, as an engineer? What is it that you are doing? So we were very interested, and that's the message. We are taking it forward. And this series is again a very amazing line of speakers. We have Sujit with us, who walks the annual pilgrimage, and we are looking forward for that documentary to see, which is going to soon be coming up. We'll hear more about it. And then we have Nitin, who does Narmada Prerna Yatras along the banks, along the Narmada River. And he's not only doing the Narmada, he's also done Sabarmati and various other rivers. And then we have Gopal. Gopal has been, I think, Gopal, you are based in the Uttarakhand, Rishikesh, Dehradun, Masuri area. He is taking on Padyatras on the Ganga. And I myself is engaged in river journeys, which become the journey of self-discovery. So there is a river flowing within us, and there's a physical manifestation of the river in the form of a river. And we learn about ourselves, and we travel from the glacier to the ocean along with youth, and we learn, and we unlearn. We unlearn also a lot on these journeys. So we will, this is just a background of the speakers, and then let me not keep you all holding on. So yes, a question to all the speakers here. What inspired you to do what you are doing? So let's, okay. Sujit, maybe you want to go ahead, and then we go to Nitin, and then we go to Gopal.
Sure, sure. Anita, let me first say thank you to IMA and to Manish for the invitation, and of course, Kalashi and you for manifesting this. Greetings to you, greetings to everybody from Italy, and to your question. Um, I've started when I was 22 in the Himalayas. And It's actually much less a pilgrimage that I do, Anita, and it's more an initiation rite of passage for men. It's a millennia old ceremony that has got lost, and we are starting to see all the challenges around it. And I was extremely fortunate when I was 15 years old to myself have my own diksha, my own initiation rite of passage from my juvenile adolescent self to my masculine, mature masculine, sacred masculine. And over the next 7 or 8 years, I was myself a sevak, an apprentice to my teacher. And at 23, 22, I was initiated as an acharya. And every year in the Himalayas, I used to do the walk. But then, after my tour started to change in life, you know, it was November, December, January, February that I was visiting India. And I'm for the last 30 years, I've lived mostly in Europe with one leg in India in the spiritual traditions I'm connected to. And Anita, I would come to India in November, December, Jan, February, and that's not a time that you want to go to the Himalayas.
Correct.
So I put the word out, I want to continue this. I do actually, I've the last January, last September, I did a walk in Italy, my 12th walk in Italy. And that was the 66th walk of my life, 8-day walk. And again, initiation rites of passage for men. Now, I've told myself, I absolutely want to continue doing this because I've noticed the difference that it makes. And I'll come to the context maybe later in the conversation. But to stay focused on your question, when I decided that, it's difficult now to continue in the Himalayas, I simply spoke out to the universe saying, you know what, I want to welcome the next location for these initiations. And of course, as you would know, like with the Ganga or the Narmada, these kind of important inner work, this inner subjective education bit, Anita, that you're talking about, that needs a sacred trail. Absolutely. And Narmada, the river found me in Gujarat, actually very, very close to Bharuch, that Nitin is from. So, from Shinor and those kind of places, all the way up to Garudeshwar and back. And, I think Nitin, you will know Rajpipla district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
yeah,
that Narmada found me. And it was important for me, Anita, that it must be a sacred trail because this unlearning that you referred to just a minute ago, what is that unlearning for me? In my tradition, unlearning is actually returning to that all knowingness that we already are. We are born Sat Chit Ananda with pure awareness of pure existence in truth, pure awareness, and pure bliss. And when we can return to that, especially in the world that we live in today with AI and geopolitical crisis and demographic changes and everything, schooling has become obsolete. I mean, people are like all these young people that I see, Kalashi, etc. They're going to have like 12 careers and 100 jobs in their lifetime. So, what school do you go to? For what? To what kind of job will you go to school for? In the midst of this hurricane of life, the thing that is going to guide me, guide all of us to success, to self realization, to happiness, to fulfillment is actually going to be that subjective education, which is actually a reversal. It is not a learning and unlearning process. It's one of peeling the layers of the onion to return to that vastness, that akasha, that infinite that's within the onion. That's that unconditioned self. And that can happen only when we do it in a setting that's filled with grace. So that's kind of a little bit of a long narrative, Anita, to your question of how Narmada found me. And since then, this is about 12, 13 years ago, I think, maybe 15 years ago. Every year, at least one walk, even during the pandemic. I've done the very last walk I did was in January, and now that has been recorded for Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's been beautiful. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. That Sachidanand. Yes. We all are born in that stage. And over the period of time, the conditioning while growing up,
Hmm.
our soul gets a layer of dust, you know. And how are we going to uncover that and go back to the basic, go back to the
Amen.
original self? Oh, that's a quest. That's something very, that's the discovery. That's a self-discovery, what we are talking about. So Sujit, very well put in. And I literally had goosebumps when you were talking about that, because this subject is so core to me. And I was born in Agra, so I can say I was born at the banks of the Yamuna.
Huh.
I grew up in
Wow.
Dehradun in the Ganga Basin and the other tributaries. Now I'm in Auroville, which is at the Bay of Bengal. So, there's something
Wow.
which is there, that a river just pulls me. I mean, this is very sacred, very, very sacred, as you said. Thank you so
Wow.
much for
I very,
sharing.
very much would love to, you know, hear from you also,
Yes.
after whenever you like to share a little bit of your journey.
Yes, certainly I'll do that. Certainly I'll do that. Oh, so yes, Nitin, the Prerna,
Yeah,
the Narmada
yeah,
Prerna.
Prerna.
Let's hear from you.
Yeah,
What is it that inspired you? I mean, Narmada, of course. I mean, she is a ma, which,
yeah. So
yes.
thank you. Narbade here from Baruch. Just to give you a brief,
Narmada.
it's the second oldest
Narmade.
city. Yeah, Baruch is the second oldest city located at the bank of Narbada when Narbada merges with the Arabian Sea. Yeah, so before I start, I want to sing a few lines from Narbada Ashtakam just to give the glimpse of what Narbada is. Sabindu Sindhu Suskalat Taranga Bhanga Ranjitam द्विषस्सु पाप जात जात खरी वरि संयुतम कृतांत रुत काल भूत भीति हारि वर्मदे त्वदीय पाद पंकजम नमामि देवी नर्मदे. So your river body, illuminate with sacred drops of water, flows with mischievous playfulness, bending with waves. Your sacred water has the divine power to transform those who are prone to hatred, the hatred born of sins. You put an end to the fear of the messenger of death by giving your protective armor. O Devi Narmada, I bow down to your lotus feet. Please give me your refuge. So this is
Just a minute. Can the others please mute their mics and only the speaker keeps it unmuted? Thank you. Go.
yeah. So Narmada has like lots of power. So I born and brought up at the bank of Narmada only at Baruch, and I spent my childhood, like Sujit mentioned, at the Rajpipla, it's a royal town. So that is an we have a tributary of Narmada. That is Karjan. So most of the years I have spent my childhood at the bank of rivers. So always I have an attraction towards rivers, and I was connected with the rivers. And in my journey of life, like by attracting from the material world, so I did my computer science from Gujarat. Then I was in academia for some years in different universities here. And to pursue my masters, I went to Triple IT. Then I went to Europe. In Sweden, I used to live in Sweden. Yeah, so I thought like that was the journey, but somehow Narmada has called me back. So in Sweden, I was representing India. And that time, so many people ask, "Hey, where are you from?" So I used to tell them I'm from Narmada. But that time, I didn't know much about the Narmada. Somehow I found that I'm not connected with my roots. There is something is missing. After returning to India, I started working on top MNC startup here, an American startup. But somehow that emptiness was there inside me. Like something is missing in my life. Something, the happiness was not there. And after some time, I realized this is not the path I want to go forward. So I decided to return back to my own native, to back to the Narmada in the life of Narmada. And I came back, and every evening, like so there are lots of chaos. Like when you left the job, so many people has oppose that family, relatives, friends, professors. So I was a top student in triple IT also. They want me to see, to work in some MNC, maybe in USA or California, Silicon Valley somewhere. But my inner calling was here. So I came back to Narmada, and like after hearing all the stuffs every day, every evening I used to go and sit at the bank of Narmada, which is like 10 minutes away from my home. I just sit and try to see the flowing river. So I feel very peacefulness. I can find happiness, inner happiness, and maybe I can get some message. I tried to connect with the Narmada at that time, and I got the message of the river, Narmada river. You have to keep flowing. It should keep flowing, and that's how my journey has started. New journey, you can say that. So you know, yeah, there's two important days in your life. One day you born, and second day, the next important day is the purpose. When you find the purpose why you were born. So maybe that day was like I was reborn in the lap of my Narmada. My real mother gave me the birth long back, and now Narmada has given me the another birth with the purpose. And the meaning of Narmada is donor of happiness. Narmada, it's a combination of Sanskrit word Narmada, Sukh dene wali, the donor of happiness. And that's how I decided that like I will also serve happiness to the world. And I started my foundation called Serve Happiness. So initially, while getting inspired from Narmada, I started traveling across the nation, learn about the different people who are working at the grassroots, bringing some change. I did lots of my personal yatras across the nation. I went to Himalaya one day, and in one of the yatra, and while sitting at the bank of Ganga in Rishikesh that night, I still remember in the evening, I could try to connect myself with the Narmada. So I thought, what should be the done for the Narmada? And the very that point of moment, I got the message like I should do some Narmada Pranayatra. So at the bank of Gange in Rishikesh, I announced that like we will do Narmada Pranayatra. So I came back. Now, when we talk about the Narmada, the only word come in your mind is Narmada Parikrama. It's a spiritual pilgrimage. People go and walk. Today morning also, I met one Parikrama Vasi. He was like doing a walk Parikrama on cycle. Yeah. So most of the people have that thought process. But like in this busy life, nobody get that much time, to live everything and go for 4 months or 4 years of parikrama. So I thought, let me make it a very small, inspiration journey at the bank of Narmada. So I decided in Narmada Parina Yatra, we start at the bank of Narmada. Every day we will go and meet the people who are working at the bank of Narmada and bringing some positive change. We go meet them, getting inspired. Every evening we used to do a reflection while sitting at the bank of Narmada. And that's how the journey shaped up. Yeah. So Narmada has inspired me in that way. And again, the running water never goes stale. You have to keep on flowing. That's what Narmada says. And again, I thought the journey should not be stopped here. So I thought, let's take in Sabarmati, Tapi. So you can say river is the theme. Like we just connect with the river, and from the river we try to connect with the surrounding area, the people and all. In spiritual pilgrimage, you go to the temples, ashrams, and get inspiration. We go and meet the real people, real heroes who are really dedicated themselves to this region. So I did so many yatras here, Narmada, Tapi, Sabarmati. Even I have to do the whole parikrama. Still, I haven't done that. I'm still working on that. Yeah, so Narmada is always inspired. So whenever I feel down, it's not an easy journey. Whenever I feel low at something, I take my bicycle and go at the bank of Narmada. Every evening I used to perform Narmada Aarti. It gives lots of positive vibes to me. And somehow Narmada also connect with us. Like sometimes we start the Aarti and it started falling. We got lots of some amazing experience. Yeah, so it's always like it's flowing within me. Yeah,
Thank you, Nitin.
Ah, beautiful. You took me back to Narmada.
yeah,
Narmada.
yeah, Narmada.
So it's interesting that, you're born and then you're reborn with the purpose of life.
Yeah,
So, yes, that purpose of life, not everybody gets that chance, or people get. I think we all get, but we are not conscious of it, the
yeah,
glimpse. And you've made a very conscious effort. Well, I won't add anything because these personal journeys are very inspiring and very sacred. So yes,
yeah.
so let's hear
Yeah.
from Gopal. Gopal, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Anita. It was very inspiring to listen to the two speakers who have spoken. Um, my journey is quite similar to what Nitin spoke about. Um, in the year 2020, when the world was reeling through the lockdown, I decided to walk the course of Ganga along the river. And what inspired me to do this was a book that I read many years ago, and the book is called Sacred Waters. It's a personal travelogue of a British Indian, and what we call Anglo-Indian. His name is Stephen Alter, and I think 25 years ago he walked from Haridwar all the way to the Char Dhams, and he documented his walking pilgrimage in the form of a book. It's called Sacred Waters, and it remains one of my favorite travelogues. And I always dreamt of recreating the journey for myself at some point in life, and lockdown gave me that opportunity. And for days on end, when I was walking along the river, um, it was a very profound experience for me that I can't put into words. We we hear a lot about presence, about inner stillness, about finding your peace, about being in the moment, etc. But that experience of walking along the river was probably one of the first times that I actually experienced all those things. That experienced inner stillness, reflective meditation. So it remains a very special experience for me, and um, I wanted to see if I could recreate this experience as a facilitated activity for people, given the potential it has for inner transformation. Um, because I also learned that every spiritual luminary from this country, right from Adi Shankaracharya to Swami Vivekananda to Tapovananda, Tapovan Maharaj to Chinmayananda, I mean Sivananda, Vishnu Devananda, I mean all the spiritual luminaries of this land have walked this path, have walked from Haridwar to Gangotri to Kedarnath to Badrinath along this route, which is millennia old. At least there's a documented evidence of people walking along this path for the last 5,000 years. And up until up until 60, 70 years ago, the walking path was still active and people were still walking up until about 60, 70 years ago. And the tradition of walking along the river to the sacred shrines in the Himalayas, all of a sudden it stopped about 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, after the road came on the other side of the river. The old pilgrim trail fell into disuse. And when I first, by chance, happened to discover this pilgrim route, when I went to visit a friend who was running a campsite along the river, I perchance I discovered that the camp was next to old walking trail to Badrinath from Haridwar, and I felt this is something that needs to be revived. This ancient tradition of walking, because people who go to the Badrinath, Kedarnath, or Gangotri today, they go by vehicles, and it it causes a lot of problems because of traffic, because of congestion, because of pollution, overpopulation, especially during the tourist season. And walking is such a environmental friendly way of of visiting the shrines, is a sustainable way of going about pilgrimages. So I wanted to see if something could be done about reviving the ancient practice of walking along the rivers as a pilgrimage. And in my understanding, also, I realized that the word for pilgrimage, is Tirtha Yatra, and Tirtha basically means water. So these ancient pilgrimages were actually about walking along the rivers. Um, and the idea of a parikrama is also that it's about the journey and not so much about the destination. And parikrama, the word itself meaning a circular journey back to where you came from, or where you started, but having transformed yourself in the process of the journey. So that's how I started offering these padayatras, and I've done a few in the last few years. So that's a brief about why I do this journey. Thank you.
Beautiful. Wow. Wow. Thank
Yes.
you. And Anita, I know that you're the moderator and the space holder for the rest of us, but the whole experience would be incomplete if you don't share the important work that you do both for yourself and for the others.
Thanks, Sujit. Thanks. Yeah, so this idea, the sacred, Sachidanand, the original self, there was always a quest, and there was always something missing. I've been traveling and I've been a rebel in my life. I ran away from home when I turned 18. Nothing of that sort, I just wanted to be independent. There was a quest, there was a search. So, and then this search also brought me to Orwell, and then I'm here since 15 years, but I've traveled quite a lot. I've grown up along the banks of the river, and I've worked with a lot of tribals in Jharkhand in the Himalayas. And being in Dehradun, that best part was like take your bike and go to the mountains. So, or you just go trek. That's how I grew up. So I would call it as a golden childhood of mine. And then I went to the university, I got my MPhil, and I started teaching in universities. But something was missing, something I was not happy about it. I was like, there is something, the way we learn is malfunctioning. Somewhere it's taking us away from our core. And I firmly believe that each one of us are a very special being, very, very beautiful being in ourself who holds a very special light. And as we grow up in this society, when we interact, when we come in this interaction with the society, somewhere, we start developing these fears over the period of time. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, because as a child, you must have been told sometime or something other. And then came upon, I read somewhere in an article that, most of the time, a human being, 95% of the time, a human being is just operating from their fears. And I was like, bang on, this is what I've been thinking of. So I was like, how? I mean, and then we forget what's our core, what's that inner calling? What is it that I stand for? So that's where the quest came in. And one fine day, I just said, okay, I'll just walk the rivers. We'll travel the rivers. I gave a call here to the students. Let's walk. We are doing Ganga Yatra. So that was way back in 2012, and then the floods came in Kedarnath, so it couldn't happen. But then we resumed. So before doing it, any river which I take up, I myself go on that pilgrimage at that yatra. I do it alone by myself, and then I take all my students along with me. So it's a bonus for me when I go again. So over the period of time, when I saw that it's not just me who has this quest, I think this quest is within everyone, and everyone wants to find their potential, which has gone hidden under the peels, under the several layers of these fear, and it became a medium of self-discovery. So we witness the flow of the river, we sit by the river, we interact with people, and as well as we work on our own self. So the very first session which we do is we do a life mapping session, the river of life, and then we see our patterns, and then we discuss. And so it's so interesting. It's very interesting when I travel, I do these journeys with the youngsters, and it's like 24 into 7 you are together. The worst and the best and the worst will come out in you. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious when we discuss. We have these sharing circles in the evening, and then, people pour out their heart. And then, I never thought I react to the or I respond in such a situation. I never thought I do like that, but it's changing. I mean, I'm witnessing my own self. So in this fast pace, we didn't get the time to reflect. Where the introspection is, who am I actually? So these journeys became, and then there is no end to these journeys, and it's going on. We have done Narmada, I've done Kaveri, I've done Ganga, and the idea is to spread, because I don't think so I can do all the rivers in the world, which I would love to. But the idea is to sow these seeds, let these river journeys become everybody's mode of learning, mode of travel. So hence this step of having a webinar also, that, how do we create Waterversities? So that's a glimpse of my life as a yatri. And my organization's name is Anveshan Experiential Learning and Unlearning Center. So we
Mm.
first unlearn and then we learn, or we go back to the Sachidananda and then we
Mm.
experience that. So I'm on an exploration and I'm an Anveshak who explores.
Wow. The next you're going to become the Minister of Education in India.
Okay. Yeah, let's spread this movement
Well,
across.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's unavoidable. It's inevitable that education has to return to the subjective, to the
Yes.
paravidya. There's nothing else. I look at my kids. Anita. They they actually go to school just simply because I want some privacy. That's the only reason. You know, really, what they learn, they just learn through Google and through YouTube and through exploring life and playing with each other. Actually, whatever it is that they're learning in school is already obsolete by the time they become adults.
Yeah.
I'm sending them to school only because I want them to grow up learning how to get into healthy relationships. That's all. Developing their social emotional intelligence. For the rest, it's useless for them to go to school because whatever, I mean, what is it that they need to learn? It's they know what they need to know. And so schooling has to change. It's once upon a time that was a nice to have option. Today, it's become a must have option.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I still
totally.
remember how we met first time, Anita. She came for Narmada Yatra, meet
Yes.
at Rajpipla with a group.
Yes. And it was so interesting. And then
Yeah.
Gopal coming to Auroville, and then we were talking about Ganga, and then all of a sudden he's in Rishikesh. And I'm like, okay,
Oh.
wow, you're in my homeland. So we just got connected, and we doing the same work, and it feels so empowering. I feel that these journeys are very, very empowering journeys, and I'm sure Sujit and Gopal and Nitin, you all believe that all the participants, those who have undergone these journeys, have a very powerful sharing for themselves too, that
Yeah.
they must have got some kind of an
Yeah.
impact on them. And maybe at that moment you don't realize, you feel that, okay, it was uncomfortable or something. But I feel that the moment you just step out and you realize, oh wow, I mean, you have those sacred sharings among the participants, and you feel, oh, I never knew about this about myself. So we're learning
Yeah.
from the river, we're learning from the nature, and it's so interesting. So why do we need four walls and the textbooks? Yes, okay, it's good to
Yeah.
read. It's good to read, it's inspiring. But yes, the phase of the education, the medium how the education system runs certainly needs to be redefined.
Mm.
Education, there has to be a paradigm shift in the entire education system, what we are offering. And it's not that we were like this. we were never like this. We were learn we had gurukuls, and gurukuls, I mean, there is another debate that, the privileged went to the gurukuls and was some others were deprived, but there was a way of learning from the nature. You learn from your parents, you learn from the farms in which you were growing up, you learn while watching a plant grow, you learn with
Yeah.
the I learned how to climb the mountains, you won't believe, from the shepherd. And I couldn't believe, and I was like, okay, I have to go down the hill. And I was like, with my walking sticks, and I like, they said, forget it, just run. See, this is how we run.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh, and when you run, you feel liberated. So, it was like, you don't need a rocket science, it was nothing. So this system was very much, and over the period of time with this colonization, I think that's what's a major setback is still that we still wants to retain that kind of education system. We
Mhm.
know it
Well, in the
didn't.
So,
meantime, I can give you a
yeah,
news flash from the West.
Okay.
I'm very, very fortunate to be spending time with the European Commission and the British government, helping them rethink education. And I can tell you, these worlds have actually moved on. While I have this very fascinating episode I have to tell you. Like, for one invitation I had in Hyderabad, I had just flown into the airport, and after that I got the pickup. They picked me up, and in the taxi I'm going from the airport to the city. And there, next to that highway, there was this very, very big billboard of some private school. And you're not going to believe this. On the billboard it was written, hold your breath, it was written, our children study 14 hours a day. This was written in block letters, big block letters, huge billboard, and footnote somewhere at the bottom with an asterisk was even Saturdays and Sundays.
Seriously. Yeah.
With pride, they're declaring it loudly. And I was looking at that with a little bit of an amusement, knowing where the future of humanity and society and economy and work is. The kind of education that they're preaching, to the Anita, to the point that you made. Actually, UK and mainland Europe has moved on. They're experimenting more and more with many of these things that we are discussing right now.
Yeah, they left a
yeah,
legacy for us. Now it's time that we have to figure out. But I think, I mean, I'm very hopeful. I'm very positive, and that the change is coming and people are talking. And then we see this entire movement. Otherwise, me, Nitin, Gopal, people like us wouldn't have been there and wouldn't have been happy
Yeah.
about doing what we are doing. So, yes, the change is coming. We can see that, that's why so many youngsters are dropping out of the corporate jobs. Oh, by the way, we also had Narayan Murthy who said, you know, work 17 hours a day.
Mm.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I received a degree from Narayan Murthy sir only. I received my master's from
congratulations.
Narayan Murthy sir.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So, I mean, so yes, I mean, work for a corporate for 17 hours a day, and then who benefits from it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's high time that we revise, we relook, we revamp, we revisit, and we go back to the basics. So, in fact, there is a course which some of our Indian Multiversity Alliance people are doing. It's called Back to Basics.
Mhm.
So back to basics is very important to do.
Basics. Actually,
Yeah.
water is.
Yeah. So
Yes,
how the next we go on this is that we all know, we all got inspired, and we've shared these stories just as very inspiring, and you can go on listening to these stories, and each individual has something very beautiful to share. How do we spread this light? How do we move ahead? How do we create, how do we inspire others to walk the path.
So I
Walk.
would like to add something to Anita, sharing. So when you connect with the river and the nature, at the broad nature, like we came from the nature, so that is we find our real self. So today morning only, I would like to share one incident in the morning. So today I had a talk here, so I thought let me get the blessings of Ma Narmada. So I was cycling in the morning, early morning. I decided to go to the Narmada, and somehow my cycle got some problems, so I couldn't travel there. I thought, oh, I will miss today to get the blessings. So whenever I go for any talk across the nation, I first take the blessings of Ma Narmada. And meanwhile, while going back to home, I found one person is going on his cycle, and he was in Narmada Parikramavasi. So I thought, let me talk to him. So I started talking with him, and he was by profession, he was a doctor from Maharashtra. His name was Dr. Balakrishnan, and he was doing a parikrama on walk. So I offered him breakfast, like let's have a breakfast. Like you must be tired, so we can have something hot. Gujarati is like we are fond of food, so I offered him some very delicious breakfast. He told me that no sir, I'm happy. Like you just greeted me, that is more than enough, and Narmada Maiya will take care of me. So the answer really touched me. Like I found that while doing this kind of journey, your inner cleansing has been done. Like greed has been decreased. I found that. Otherwise, we would love to have breakfast. If somebody is offering me, like I would be like happy to have it. But somehow, when you do such kind of journey, your greed, hatterness, and all things will be slowly, go down. And instead of like, if I go to any big city, if I travel to Bangalore or Ahmedabad, something, I always try to attract with the material stuff. I should buy this, and all. But when you go for a walk at the Narbada, I never feel like buying something and anything. That is the one lesson that we get from the nature. And another thing, I recently I did a Ginnar Parikrama as well. So it was around 50-kilometer walk I've done surrounding the Mount Ginnar. So that time I was, carrying lots of luggage with me, and like with around 15 kg luggage, I travel whole, journey. And somehow I got the message after the parikrama that you should not carry this much luggage with you. If you go ahead in your life, you should throw all this stuff, your title, positions, and all kind of stuff, nonsense stuff that we give too much weightage in our life, whether our material stuffs and all. So if you want to go ahead and live peacefully and with happiness, you should remove all this. That's the message. So whenever you do parikrama or any kind of journey, the Tirth Yatra and all, it gives you some message that you have to listen from your inside heart. That is the message you will get whenever you go. This is what I learn in all the yatras that I have done, not only Narmada and all other yatras. So I try to connect with the nature and to spread this kind of word. Like here, like lots of people on Narmada, also we have a Narmada Uttar Vahini Parikrama. That is a very small pilgrimage that happened in the Chaitra month, and it is around 17-kilometer walk at the bank of Narmada. Narmada flows in north direction. That's why it's called Uttar Vahini. Only in that area it flows in the north direction. So every this time, like due to social media and all, now so many people are coming to the parikrama, but they are throwing garbage and they are like spoiling the river. So they are not getting the right message of a parikrama, what it was meant to. The first, whenever we do such kind of pilgrimage, first we have to explain what exactly it is. What is the importance of that? That can be done using the yatra that we are doing. The
Mhm.
first people should understand that what exactly they are doing and what benefits they will get. Just some people are just coming and just walk, like they finish and they say, "Oh, we did the parikrama." Like they feel very accomplished. Like it's kind of achievement for them. We did even the Narmada parikrama also. But after doing parikrama, what changes you have made? The outcome is parikrama. Sorry, the output. Like I did a whole parikrama. That's my output. Like walk around 3,600 kilometers. But what is the outcome? What you have become during the process, during that journey? That is more important. I think we should focus more on the outcome, not the output. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Uh, well spoken, Nitin. Well spoken. And Anita, to your question, it's been 37 years since I started walking, and most of that walk has been waterside, the wisdom of water. Even as we speak, I have here a saying from Buddha on the screen. The mind is like water, that when it is not turbulent, then it's clear and you can see through it. Something of that sort. that water component, and Nitin, to what you shared, trying to connect that to what Anita had to share. I, in the beginning, for many years actually, because most people that join me in the walk are from the West, and they're all adults. Many of them are very, very highly accomplished, and the Uttarvahini, that whole region of Tilakwada and Malsar, not Malsar,
Mal-
the Nani
Gurudeshwar.
Moti Panoti, and
Yeah.
all that. That's all that area. Um, they all know these foreigners coming with me, and you look at them. What I've come to realize over the decades is, you know, there's only so much we can do to really tell them so that it can appeal to their head, or maybe to some extent to their emotions, so that they will take a leap of faith to join. One of the things that has really, really worked, and now even in European primary and secondary schools, we are starting to implement some of these experiments, is in my programs now, I do not ever market any program. But I've asked all the past participants one favor, aside from them continuing to live their wisdom that they've gained from the water, from themselves in with water as a witness. I asked them one more thing, that is, if you benefited from this, if you've discovered a little bit of yourself, then when the next walk is arranged, you're responsible for nominating at least one person to the program, somebody who absolutely needs something like this, because they've experienced the benefit of it. That means there's no need anymore to sell it, because there's a limitation with language, whether it's the output or the outcome. We can only try to verbalize our own personal experience. These people, they become the ambassadors, and that's what's become right now. Um,
Yes.
it's even in the schools for that reason. To what extent can we go and convince the parents or the teachers that, hey, your children should be taken out to the river, to the lake, to sit next to it, and let's have circles there, learn from each other. You know, it's very difficult for them to wrap their head around the concept, Nitin. However, when one of the teachers joined me for the walk, and this is my son's school, I persuaded him to join. And since then, what happens is he is himself, he does these in the classes. So once in a while, he takes all the kids and they take the kids for one day to the river. And the kids are waiting for it every time, waiting for that. Doesn't matter whether it's rainy or it's cold, doesn't matter. They want to go to the river. So rather than create a parallel universe where, okay, the mainstream education is all flop and is useless and is harmful, is dysfunctional, is toxic, it's pathological. I hear all of this, by the way, because I spend a lot of time with policymakers. Instead of polarizing humanity, you know, the experiment, Nitin, that I've been in the direction of what Anita was asking, that I've been experimenting with right now is I want to bring the river to the school. There's a limitation for that. It's only a limitation when for parents and teachers, because they look at school and school for them is four walls. But for kids, school is boundaryless. It's not like, when they enter a classroom, their education begins. And when they leave the classroom, the education stops. It's not like that for kids. For kids, it's one long play. And to convince the parents to kind of like bring the river or the lake to the classroom, to the school, that's a huge break.
True.
Yeah. So, Anita, I wanted to share something here.
Please,
Um,
please do.
yeah, there's an NGO in Delhi that brings students of Delhi schools to Yamunotri, to the
Yes,
higher Himalayan Yamuna valleys.
I know.
And
Vimlendu Jha.
right. And I met a volunteer who participated in one of those yatras, and she said the biggest impact is when the kids see the same river where they're from in Delhi, so polluted, and they come and see this crystal clear, bluish green, turquoise waters in the mountains. Um, they understand very viscerally what we do to the river, right? A river that is so pure that you can drink from its banks in the Himalayas, just 200 kilometers downstream in Delhi, um, is so polluted and so ugly. So I think environmental consciousness, probably you can't find a better way to showcase what we do to the rivers than bringing the kids from Delhi to Yamunotri to show them the same river, how it originates, and 200 kilometers down the line what we do to the river. Uh, I mean, talking about kids and rivers and schools, I felt this is something
Wow.
that a volunteer shared with me, that the kids, they
Yes.
just can't believe that it's the same river. You know,
Yes.
Inspiring.
Yeah. So,
My apologies, Anita. Just
no, no,
want
please
to
go ahead.
put one
Please go
thought
ahead.
before it loses my awareness. And there's an invitation to the whole group here. Yeah. I know Manish, he's been a friend of mine for many, many years. We've shared many platforms globally, and I've visited Udaipur with him in the jail and all these places. I know his heart is in the right place. And knowing him and this invitation that I've received, and so many incredible people in this group, I want to put this one invitation out. In Europe, I'm actually holding space. I'm not a technocrat, by the way. I'm just a spiritual practitioner. And I'm holding space for piloting a new subject and curriculum in European schools. This is actually a project from the European Commission, and it's called Ecologics. And I just wanted to build on what Gopala just right now shared. If there is anybody in this group who would like to put their mighty resourcefulness, their leadership to work and to prototype and pilot. Uh, like once upon a time, remember when I used to go to school, there was a subject called civics. There was
Yes.
a subject called moral science. Right now, in this postmodern secularist, misguidedness, we think civics and moral science is not good anymore. Never mind, I don't want to judge anybody. But if there is anybody in this group who feels inspired to take the baton to maybe prototype, to try out in some schools that we know, putting a curriculum, a course together, one subject together on ecologics, I would very much love to hear from them.
That sounds like quite a plan.
Am I allowed to come in, please?
yes, please. Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Uh,
Um, your voice is not audible, sir.
Okay, I'll come a little closer. Am
Yes.
I better now? Is my voice
Yes.
better?
Yes.
yes.
Yes, sir. Please.
I'll, I'll take a few minutes. My name is Shravan Kumar. I'm participating from Hyderabad. Now, I've been picking up these points, and especially Sujit said, Sujit, I've been to Italy a couple of years ago on a business work, and the best part that I spent in entire 7 days that I stayed there was to spend an entire half a day at Lake Garda. We left Milan and we were driving down, and I was going all the way to Napoli, and we were half a day at Lake Garda there, and that was the best of my trip. That's part one. Part two, you said, yes, is there anybody who can broad base this? Yeah, right at the beginning of your opening remarks, you said the collective wisdom of this group should be broad based. It should not be confined here, it should be taken further. We have a platform. Before I go to that, am I allowed 5 minutes?
Yeah, yes, sir. Please go ahead. Please share your views.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to make it interesting.
Please go ahead.
And yeah, I've been lucky to club with Gopal and participate in one of his Ganga Yatras, and that was an excellent experience that I had. Subsequently, somehow logistics didn't allow me to go on any other yatras that he conducted, though I am looking for his next one. That definitely then. I also happened to watch a film, a documentary film made by one of my friends called Cutting Off a Lifeline. And that was about River Musi of Hyderabad, where I live. How the River Musi has been totally destroyed. She made a film on that. And I traced movie the Musi River. Many of you might not know this. Musi River travels 125 kilometers towards Vijayawada all the way up to Suryapet, and it joins into a sea. But then it carries the entire pollution. The land has not now good enough for any cultivation. So that is one part. That is one sad story. So we have taken that. Now I'll come to the next level. I am a part of a body called Indian Plumbing Association. We are an NGO. We are an NGO. We have 28 chapters across the country. We have more than 8,000 members. Maybe after this, some of you might log into our website. It says indianplumbing.org. And we work, our primary mission is better plumbing for better health. The point that Gopal said now, the 200 kilometers down the line, Yamuna becomes so polluted at Delhi, where it is pristine at Yamunotri. We put plumbing into work to see that water does not become so polluted anymore. So Indian Plumbing Organization, Indian Plumbing Association works towards that. That is one of our missions. We also work on what Sujit has said. What we want to do now, there are a lot of words that people have been saying: reduce, reuse, recycle, refill, whatever. But then we have brought into our association one word: respect. We said if you want to deal with water, you need to respect water. This is what we are inculcating among all our 8,000 plus members. How you should treat water with respect. That is one thing. Now, coming to education, Sujit, you said is that you're taking up an initiative in Europe. Fantastic. You will know for sure India is one of the few countries where plumbing is not taught as an engineering stream. We don't have any plumbing or public health engineering as a formal stream of education in this country. So my association, Indian Plumbing Association, has been working very, very seriously for the last 3 years. This year, the syllabus that we have proposed has been accepted by All India Council of Technical Education. With effect from this academic year, plumbing and public health engineering is mandatory subject in 11,000 institutions across the country in semester 5 in a 4-year engineering stream.
Amazing.
So we can work in that. We also have another wing called IPA Vanita, which is completely spearheaded by ladies. We have an initiative where we want to sensitize school children on the role of water and plumbing. We can definitely collaborate wherever required. You tell us what we need to do, we'll do it. Last month, we conducted the 30th Indian Plumbing Conference at Hyderabad. We had 700 delegates. We had a special session on heritage in water. So I think in the next Indian Plumbing Conference, some of you can definitely, we'll invite you, some of you can definitely present the connect with heritage and water to the audience there.
Lovely. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Thank you, Sarvan sir. I think it's very inspiring. I mean, what an amazing achievement this is, that, that plumbing became a subject to study, because it's very interesting. When I was doing a Kaveri Yatra, and we were in Erode, and I took my students to the banks of the river, and that bank was the landfill for the entire city. And there was a landfill, and just next to the landfill, not even 2 meters away, was a big well in the river, from where the entire drinking water was being supplied to the city. And the task which we did there was take a silent walk in this landfill at the walk. This is our doing. This is our doing. And
And
you believe the students, the participants didn't eat their dinner that night.
Image.
yeah, and so I would like to add one thing. Like we are talking so many things, but in our traditions also we always respect water, the rivers and all. So the spirituality only plays the major role. While when you want to bring a big change, you have to make them. Even the Rajendra Singh ji told that you have to make them fall in love with the rivers. You should respect them by heart, not just by giving the direction. It won't happen. Like there are so many people who are living at the bank of Narmada, still they are polluting. Like in Bharuch, we have lots of pollution here. Like also I had mentioned last time also, the industries are releasing all the wastewater to the river and all. They don't have any heart. So first we have to connect our heart with the river. We have to make them fall in love with them. Then only we can respect the Aarti stuff like we do at the Ganga Aarti, at the Ghats, Narmada Aarti. It will create such kind of respect and love for our rivers and the nature. That is very much important. Otherwise, this thing will become, the river fronts are happening. You can see that people are loving that. So many people are telling me that Nitin, we should have a riverfront at Narmada. How it will look like, and Sabarmati riverfront is very beautiful and all. But they are not, getting the importance of the real nature. The nature has created the beautiful stuff, and river makes their own way. We can't, we don't have to introduce all these things. First, we have to, revise our basics. We have to go back to the basics, like what we our old traditions. Why rivers were not polluted that time.
Yeah. So
What we are
I
doing right now.
right, right. So I would like to share a few thoughts on what you're saying and continuing from what you started. The theme of reverence and respect for the rivers, and also bringing in engineering. What Mr. Shravan Kumar spoke about. So this is something I learned about the river Ganga 150 years ago. I think in the 1840s, the first dam on the river Ganga was built at Haridwar, right? And at that time, when the British government, the then British government, decided to build the first dam on the river Ganga, the locals, they fought the idea tooth and nail. I mean, there were riots in the streets of Haridwar against the idea of building a dam on the river Ganga, because the spiritual tradition dictated that Ganga should flow aviral. There's a mythology of Ganga that she agreed to come down to the earth on the condition that she would be allowed to flow uninterrupted, which is called Aviral Ganga. So the Pandits of Haridwar, they would not allow the dam to happen. So the chief engineer of that time, Mr. Kotle, Probe Kotle, who also built the first engineering college in India in Roorkee, to train people to build that dam, he created an arrangement where a part of the water from the river would be channelized um, in the form of a canal and again join the river downstream, so that the water of the river Ganga is not dammed completely. Even though there's a dam, a certain channel would be allowed from the upstream of the dam to the downstream of the dam to allow for uninterrupted flow of Ganga, because to stop the flow of Ganga was considered sacrilege, was considered a dishonorable thing to do. Now, how many of you have been to Haridwar in this group? Whoever is listening to me, I'm sure some of you or most of you have visited Haridwar. What comes as news to most people is that the entire town of Haridwar today, and all the holy places, the Ganga Aarti, the temples, they're not on the actual river.
No, they're not.
They're all on the banks of that channel, which was created with Aviral Ganga. Because downstream from the dam, they believed that since the river has been dammed, the river is not pure anymore. So the entire lock, stock, and barrel, the entire town, the temples, the artis, and everything moved to the new channel that was constructed to allow for Aviral Ganga. So now we have forgotten this. It's only about 150 years ago that this happened. But today, most people of Haridwar do not know that that is not the Ganga. Many people who go to Haridwar do not know that that's not the original Ganga. In fact, some of the tourist guides tell you that the temple is 2,000 years old, 3,000 years old, when everybody knows that if you do a little bit of research, the channel and everything around it was built only about 150 years ago. And a couple of years ago, the channel, the Ganga at Haridwar, it became dry. They were building something, and then they ran the river dry. and we could see railway tracks on the bottom of the Ganga in Haridwar, where people take their dips and do aartis. And that also, very interestingly, happens to be India's first railway line. India's first railway line is not between Bombay and Pune as we studied, but it was actually built in Haridwar to carry stuff from Roorkee to Haridwar for the first dam. And this again brings many, many questions. I mean, something that we have studied all our lives, that the first railway track was between Bombay and Pune in 1853, is not true, right? So a lot of things that we study in history are actually, in that sense, not fact checked. So that's something about engineering and the rivers and the riverines. And taking this idea further, if you look at most of the important pilgrim shrines of the tradition, let us say Gangotri, Yamunotri, Kedarnath, and Badrinath, what many people do not know that these four dhams, the main char dhams of the Himalayas, are actually the origin places of the four streams that eventually combine to form the river Ganga. So so it is the rivers that we are worshipping. I mean, Gangotri and Yamunotri, of course, it's the river directly. But at Kedarnath and Badrinath, the Vishnu and the Shiva that we worship are the temples. The site for the temples was chosen because that is where the rivers originate from. And I believe the idea of placing temples at the origin places of rivers is so that people can traverse the paths all the way to the origin sources of the rivers, because rivers are the essence of life. And going back into the heritage, somebody spoke about heritage. I mean, Nitin was talking about heritage and the rivers. If you study the Indian history, the history of the land is the history of the rivers. About 5,000 years ago was when the civilization shifted from Sindhu Saraswati Basin to Ganga Yamuna Basin. So our holiest sites, before 5,000 years ago, the early Vedic period, the holiest place is Manasarovar, because that is where the rivers of the Sindhu Saraswati Basin originate from. But when the civilization shifted from Sindhu Saraswati Valley to Ganga Yamuna Valley, the basin, the main shrines became the Char Dham, Gangotri, Yamunotri, Kedarnath, and Badrinath. And likewise, the five major rivers, Godavari, Kaveri, Ganga, Yamuna, and Narmada, Amarkantak, we have, Tanjavur, we have Bhadrachalam. Most of the pilgrim shrines of our culture are actually on the banks of the river, or or the origin places of the rivers. So yeah, those are some ideas that I wanted to share about tradition and reverence for the rivers. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
uh,
Gopal. Sorry,
Anita,
Sujit. Oh, yeah, please go ahead. Then I
just
think
no,
it has
quickly,
sparked
quickly.
a,
I mean, for
yes,
16 minutes, I have a hard stop, just so that you know. I have another
yes.
commitment, just so that you know.
Sure, sure. Thanks. So, Gopal, here I would just like to add on. Because I grew up in Dehradun, and we used to visit Rishikesh and Haridwar quite often. And there were times when we would cycle half the way till there. And then, to say that people don't know that the arti which they are doing is not the real dhara of the Ganga, I wouldn't put it like that, because people still know that the Chandi Ghat side is the main dhara of the river. And so there, I mean, it can go on like that. So
So,
the people know of the town, people know about it, that the Harki Pedi is the that channel which was done, the aqueduct which was made for the irrigation purpose. So there is certainly a need at that time of the period was needed. But yes, we can say that it's reluctant, it's redundant now. And then, but yes, lot of
yeah.
people might not know, but we still know that the
And,
main,
and when I say people don't know, I don't mean nobody knows. I've
yeah,
spoken to people from Haridwar who expressed ignorance about this.
yeah. So
So, and
that's the ignorance we are talking about.
and
That
also the fact that, my point was not about the ignorance. My point was, when there was reverence for Ganga, they
yes,
opposed tooth and nail a dam. Today there are 44 dams upstream of Haridwar, from Haridwar to the source of Ganga. 44 dams have been built on the same river. And the largest dam in India, Tehri Dam, is now built with massive amounts of water, at Tehri. nobody even batted an eyelid. So, in 150 years, what has changed is that we have become from a culture where we held rivers in deep reverence. We've come to a place where Ganga is being polluted by releasing all of the effluents of, say Haridwar, Rishikesh, Uttarkashi, and all the cities. But we don't, it's a different kind of ignorance. It's not the ignorance of not knowing. It's the ignorance of probably not caring or not, assigning enough value to the detrimental actions that are being performed. So that ignorance for me is more concerning. um,
Certainly, because it's not in my backyard. You know, it's not happening in my backyard, so I don't care. That's the attitude which everyone is following. The moment it happens in your backyard, you go haywire, you will do everything to do it. So this is not just the story with the river Ganga. I mean, it's the story with all the rivers. So that connection, that deep connection which we are talking about, building with the rivers, the cultural heritage connection which we have with the rivers, which is still there, reviving it, going back to the Sachidanand, to the original form where, what exactly it was like. I mean, I totally understand. I mean, I've been an activist all my life. So, I understand what you were saying, Gopal, and I share the same sentiment. But yes, it's time that we let the action begin. And it's not that, because I used to take my father on the bike to Srinagar in Garhwal whenever he had some emergency meeting of the office, and my mom would say, no, 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 don't let your father ride a bike, you go take him. So I used to take, and that time the flow was, we used to ride along the Alaknanda and reach Srinagar. And after a gap of 14 years, when I revisited that space, I was heartbroken. I was shaken to the core that what have we done? The entire city of Joshimath came in danger just because of these dams which we have built without realizing what, because Himalayas are the youngest mountains. We don't have they don't have the capacity to hold that much of development what we are talking about. So certainly it pains, it is very painful to see. But yes, there is always a ray of hope. I would say that what the work which you are doing, the work which Nitin is doing, work which Sarvan sir has done, work which Sujit is doing, I think that's the focus, that let's bring it back, let's bring that chetana, that awareness back in the world, and we're gonna bring one person changing the impact. The transformation starts from here, and I'm sure that light of transformation will be carrying on. And so I'll just read a small passage which at some time I was writing over the period of time. And, I call it the whispers of the river. Beneath the stillness of the following tide, a thousand whispers softly collide. Dreams and doubts, hopes and fears, woven together through the years. The river speaks in murmurs of path unseen, of ways to grow. Each ripple a story, each bend a test, a call to wander, to seek, to rest. So we move
Right.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, as we know that we are reaching, we have only 10 minutes left with us to, I think I'll open up. I mean, there is so much to talk, and I wish that we had more time on our hand and then we could have gone and speaking. But Sujit, thank you for offering that space of co-creation, and thanks, Sravan sir, to, inviting us. I didn't know this Indian Plumbing Association existing, and what a wonderful work you guys are doing, that respect, bringing in that field. I mean, the connection which you're building is amazing. So here, I think I'll open the mic for the participants, the other audience, if they have any query, question, or they want to share their story. Please, I would open the mic to everyone else. Is somebody interested in sharing anything with our speakers, with all of us? You can unmute and you can go.
Or there are, I see a few participants from my yatras also joining today. So
Okay.
if
So if
there's
somebody wants to
somebody
join
wants to share your, yeah, share your
experience
experience of the yatra,
transformation,
or questions
yeah.
for the speaker, please, I invite you guys.
I have a question which might be a bit, basic at this point. I've been listening, but I want to ask, what is, the shamans we did. I've been trained in some shamanic work, and I used to be an energy healer before this. And they used to do vision quests for initiations, where they used to go into the woods and stay with the spirits and get these. And I think my question is this is to Sujit ji, where what is the difference between a river journey yatra and a vision quest? Isn't this both a spiritual going in inward to yourself? In a spiritual way, what is the real difference? Is there a difference?
Great question. This is Kalashi, right?
Yeah.
No, right. Okay. There are some differences and there are some commonalities. One, both, whether it's in wilderness or next to the river, it is stepping into the sacred. It is stepping into the unknown. It is stepping into the energies, the supramental, the subtle, the meta, the divine, the intuitional. Um, that's common. Something else that's very common is there's a very strong component of the ordeal, that it is this subtraction, this unlearning. How does that happen? In initiations or in diksha, that happens not by going into wilderness and setting up a cozy picnic. Yeah, it comes from going into the wilderness or to the riverside and subtracting all of that lifetime of, I think Anita referred to this earlier in one of her introductions, like the lifetime of experiences that we carry, subtracting that. So these are some of the similarities. Now, what is different, though, is indeed the energy of the water. There is something very profoundly reflective in the energy of the water, which is a very, very powerful. After all, remember, our body is just mostly water. And we do know, and there was this incredible Japanese engineer who was a very dear friend of mine. He's left his body. He's done a lot of experiments with water. And one of the things we do know, and this is even mystics have even spoken about this. So this is only for your reflection, Kalashi. Water. If you heal water in the house, you will start healing relationships in the house. If you
How
heal
do you heal water in the house? I desperately need to know this.
we'll have to, Anita, you will have to organize one another session for this. But a simple act of chanting the Gayatri mantra or the Sahanavavatu. Give it a try. I've actually done these experiments with water under a microscope. You just chant any of the sacred mantras, not all of them. There are most of them, not all of them. You sing that, you will notice the entire crystal structure of the water changes, but that's for a different conversation. But you can do that. You can just send love to it. You can speak love to it. You can put it in a beautiful, well-carved copper vessel. You can actually light sandalwood, pure sandalwood agarbatti next to it, etc. There are many, many, many interventions to recrystallize or reheal water. But I think we should organize a different session for that out of respect for everyone's space here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
yeah, that's true. Water has memory, and Marma, I mean, there are images how water like what Sujit is saying, you can actually see the crystals and you can see the how the water can be, you can change. So somebody here has, developed a echodyne system in which the mantras run over the period of time through the water, and you see a difference. So yeah, I think we should have a session on these rituals around the water. That would be so fascinating. Coming from different part of the worlds, people should share, and you will have a granth, you know you will have a granth of that. I think that's the next project, Sujit. We should take it up, and rest all of us should take it up. That's true. So yes, taking forward this journey of river, I would really invite everyone to connect to the river, connect to the water around you, inspire others, or get inspired, unlearn and go to the basic. Um, if we can carry forward, there are some mail IDs which have come in the chat, and we can share with all the participants the mail IDs of our panelists if they have any further questions to connect to the speakers we have today. And that would be really nice, Kalashri, that we can offer this. I'm sure that all the speakers agree to this, and I've just spoken on my behalf. And can we have last one word from all the speakers here about creating and this, taking forward this
Like
project?
we all know that water is the solution. It dissolves most of the substances, even more than sulfuric acid or whatsoever. But going one step further, when you combine alcohol with water, it dissolves your tensions and worries also.
Water is a great catalyst.
Yes.
I also want to remind that next week we have a very interesting session on storytelling, arts, and culture. And I have managed with Anita's help and persistence to get Dr. Anjali Kapila to be, who has
Yes.
written many books on, she works with women's songs, and it will be a very interesting dialogue. I'm still trying to catch a hold of the other speakers. Uh, so there should be 3-4 speakers for that, hopefully. So please
Yes.
be sure to watch out for that.
Yeah. She is because you go to any household, you go to any village, you go to anybody living the riparian society which is living along the banks of any of the river, you will have one song in their language for the river. And Dr. Anjali is documenting all those songs along the Ganga, and she's published a book also. So it's very interesting. We'll be having storytelling sessions around the river, and please, if, like Kalashi said, everybody is welcome. And so yes, moving ahead, can we have a last word from the speakers?
Yeah, I would like to say a few lines. Like in Hindi, it's like a kavita. नदियों से सीखा है मैंने जीने का सलीका, नदियों से सीखा है मैंने जीने का सलीका, अपनी मस्ती में बहना और मौज में रहना. Yeah, that is the life I'm living.
Beautiful. Wow. Oh, thank you. I'll take the talking stick from Nitin, Anita, and just wanna again, I mean, everything that needs to be spoken has been spoken. It's been perfect what has emerged today, and it's part of an ongoing conversation. For now, I just want to thank Kalashi and you, Anita, for making this congregation possible. I want to thank all the participants, who are so passionate about this leadership, and I want to thank IMA and Manish for your friendship.
Thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
we have Gopal?
Yeah.
Yes, we have Gopal.
So um, I'd like to share a quote that I really like. It says, "The river that flows through me also flows through you." I think it's from Rumi. Mm, I mean, I find it very profound. Um, but I also want to end with acknowledging my gratitude to Anita, to Kalashri, to IMA, and for my fellow speakers. I'm very inspired by their work, and I hope to continue this work. And I invite everybody. I think I want to do at least one or two yatras every year. And my next Ganga Padayatra will be in the month of March, where we'll be walking for 6 days on the banks of the river from Rishikesh to Deoprayag. So please spread the word if you want to join, or if anybody that you know would like to experience this yatra. Please spread the word about this. And thank you once again.
Yeah, just to add, I'm also doing Narmada Prerna Yatra mostly next month. So yeah, you can connect me for that. It's a 4 days journey. So
Right.
we are going to have a kite flying celebration. Bank of Narmada, let's see.
Thank you. Is it during Uttarayan, the kite flying festival in
Yeah,
Andhra?
Uttarayan, Uttarayan. So I always try to integrate the festival with the yatra. So you should also get the glimpse of celebration in the yatra.
Thank you. I'd love to be a part of it.
Lovely.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. And we have the Mahakumbh happening in Prayagraj, where the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati from 13th of January till 26th February. We'll be doing seva there and cooking and feeding the
Yeah,
pilgrims
great.
who are coming. So anybody wants to volunteer in the Kumbh Mela, please you can
Oh, great.
connect with us. And I really humbly, I mean, it's thanks from the bottom of the heart to all the speakers, to all the participants, to join us on this quest of Waterversities, where we're trying to create a dialogue, trying to take forward this work and know each other work and move ahead. So at the end, I would just say the river flows relentless through a mirror reflecting the heart of you. As you listen, you start to see the boundless depths of what can be. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Nar-
for joining.
And see you tomorrow. See
Narmade
you.
har Gange.
Narmade. See you next week, same time at 7 p.m. with another storytelling session around the art along the rivers.
Yeah, I'll be sharing all the details on the social media and WhatsApp group. So please watch out for those and check it out. You will be bombarded with posters and details.
Thank you, Kalashri, for
Yeah.
Thank you
all the
everyone.
support. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
Thank you. Good night.
you.
Thank you.